Hi, everybody. Mr. Johnson here with another episode of The Artist Gallery. Today, we are going to be talking about the incredible Canadian artist, Lisa Milroy. So if you were one of my students, make sure that you have your artist pages. Open up to that Lisa Milroy page so that we can be cutting and pasting her pictures into our sketchbook and copying down the notes in those white sections that go along with it. And don't forget, there'll be a journal prompt at the end for you to answer in your assignment on Google Classroom. So make sure you have this page. Again, if you're one of my students, make sure that you're taking the notes that follow along with today's artist, the incredible Lisa Milroy. So I'm going to move my image over here so you have some space. So while we start cutting and pasting some of Lisa Milroy's pictures into your sketchbook, I'll tell you a little bit about her. She is a current and contemporary artist who was born January 16th, 1959 in Vancouver, Canada. I don't know if any of you share a birthday with Lisa Milroy, any of you January 16 birthdays. She's close to mine, but, not exact. In 1977, when she was 18 years old, she went to Paris to study at the Paris Sorbonne University. And then a year later, in 1978, she moved to London, where she studied at St. Martin's School of Art. She gained her Bachelor's of Fine Arts at Goldsmith College at the University of London in 1982. So she was born in Canada at 18. She travels to Paris to study art. She then moves to London, and now she currently lives and works in London, England. She is best known for her patterned still life paintings, where she takes ordinary objects and arranges them often in rows and creates this almost abstract rendition of a very recognizable subject. Using everyday objects, they're extremely detailed, things like shoes, light bulbs, lemons, fruits, and vegetables. So we're going to talk about a lot of these things as we look at her paintings today. Lisa Milroy is currently the head of graduate painting at Slade School of Fine Art in London, which is pretty cool. And she has had solo exhibitions all around the world. So let's dive into some of her paintings and we can really talk about what makes her art stand out. I think she's such an incredible artist because the way that she paints her subjects are very unique and immediately recognizable as being a Lisa Milroy painting. So how does she do that? Let's take a look. So this first painting that you have to include is Melons. And Melons was painted in 1986, and it's all about repetition. So here you have this whole assortment, right, of these melons on just a blank white surface. So maybe it's a counter, a table. We're not really sure the location. They are all similar. They're not identical. There's some that are slightly larger, slightly smaller than the others, some that are a little bit pointier, a little bit rounder, right? So they're all slightly different, but they all have the same coloring, the same texture. You can see those little stickers, that come on a fruit when you buy it from a grocery store. Those are visible on a lot of the melons in this painting. And then they all have that little soft cast shadow onto that table surface. So what I love about this is that you've got these simple objects, immediately recognizable, but it's arranged in a way that makes it almost mysterious, because when you look at something like this, we don't know, are we in a grocery store, right? Are we looking at these, did someone buy, all of these and they're out on a table? We're not really sure the story here. And for me, that's what's interesting about it. Is as soon as I look at it, I immediately know what the subject is. It's so recognizable. But there's this kind of mysterious element to them because of the way they're arranged. We're not sure what the story is here. And I find that personally very interesting. So let's take a look at some more examples of the paintings that Lisa Milroy does in a similar style. So although she does a lot of things, it's the paintings that emphasize repetition, repeating the same elements over and over again, right? That's what she's best known for. This example, the second artwork that you should include if you're one of my students in the sketchbook for Lisa Milroy is called Light Bulbs, painted in 1988. So here she's taken a slightly different approach. Here the light bulbs are arranged in very even rows or in columns. In the previous painting, the melons were kind of all over the place, like they had just been tossed on a table. But here, these are very carefully arranged. It almost looks scientific to me where these objects have been placed, right? Sometimes they're rows of threes, right? Or groups of 2 and 3. But the groupings don't necessarily all go together. They're not all the same thing. Sometimes they are. These light bulbs here, right in the center, are all exactly the same. These are all exactly the same, but this row of ones are different, right? This grouping is different. This grouping is different. So again, we're not sure why they're arranged this way. This reminds me of people studying insects and pinning them onto boards, that sort of thing as a display. It has that kind of feeling for me. But what I love about it is it's a subject that everyone's familiar with. We know what a light bulb is, but we don't really take the time to study a light bulb and its shape and its coloring and the reflections of it. So here, she takes a fine art approach to everyday simple subjects, which I just think is a really cool concept. Lisa Milroy is quoted as saying, "If one thing is repeated over and over again, it becomes something different." So here, although we know these are all light bulbs, when you look at the entire piece, it's this kind of odd array of subjects. And again, just on a plain white background, right? We don't know where this is taking place. We don't know the location of these objects. They have very soft little shadows painted on the sides of them, right? Beautifully rendered, but it's kind of bizarre, which I find so interesting, right? Like, why has someone collected all of these light bulbs and displayed them in this way? But again, that's those groupings and that repetition is what Lisa Milroy is best known for. So let's hear a discussion about one of Lisa Milroy's paintings you don't have, but you get a sense of the scale of it. Her paintings are large in size, often 6, 8, 10 feet. So it's not like these are little tiny light bulbs. These are large, right? These take up a large area. So let's take a look at this very quick description of a painting called Handles. If it plays. Come on now. Don't let me down. So anyway, while this is loading, here they're going to take a look at one of Lisa Milroy's paintings that was a John Morse Painting Prize contest winner. And oh, nope, still not loading. We're going to give it another shot. Maybe. Maybe now? No? Or you know what? Maybe we're going to skip it because it's not working. Come on, YouTube. No, it does not want to play, does it? It does not want to play. So, you know what? We're going to skip it. Sorry, fellas. Technology sometimes didn't quite work out the way we wanted. Now, this painting, though, we're just going to jump ahead. This painting called Shoes, again from 1985, that emphasizes color and shape. And here's what I love about this. These are all the same shoe, but she's created each pair differently by changing the arrangement and the composition of those shoes. So this looks like either a whole bunch of pairs of the same shoe. You know, did someone get 12 pairs of these shoes, or is it the same pair repeated over and over? Not really sure. But here she's using complementary colors with the blue highlights on the outside of the shoe. We know the shoe is supposed to be black, but she's using this blue as a highlight color. And the inside has this little orangey tint. And those complementary colors make the shoes really pop, again, off this blank white surface. So we're looking at the shape of the shoe. Some of these here, we just see them from the top. some from the side, some one of each, some they're upside down, some they're right side up, some they're perfectly even or straight next to each other, some they're at angles. I find that so interesting. One artist here has taken the same subject and depicted it 12 different ways in the same painting. They're all exactly the same size. It's almost like they're laid out in a grid, right, with these individual rows of subjects, but the grid is not geometric, right, because they're on all different angles. So it gives a lot of personality to these shoes, which I think is really fun. So I feel like, you can tell, I think, about a person by the way they leave their shoes on the floor. And you can kind of see that in this painting, that maybe these are depictions of different personalities as seen through their shoes. Plus, if you look at the painting, what I love about Lisa Milroy's style is that it's realistic enough that the object is immediately identifiable, but it's not so realistic that it looks like a photograph. So for example, the highlights on the outsides of these shoes are just marks of white paint, right? They're not, so carefully rendered that they reflect the light source. It's not that. It just bam, right, with this white paint, and it makes that bold highlight. So it's very painterly, but it still shows this attention to the actual object, which I think is incredible. This is another shoe painting that you do not have to include. You don't have this one, but I just wanted to show you this example of shoes painted in 1987. And Lisa Milroy asked, what do our shoes say about us? Here, the difference is every pair of shoes is a different pair. So you've got all these different styles, all of these different looks, colors, everything from ballet slippers to high heels to sandals and flip-flops. Right, all of these different kinds of shoes, some with buckles, some with fur, some with straps, some with bows. Again, some are, sitting straight up next to each other. Some are on their side. Some are on a little bit of an angle. So you get the difference in the composition, but it still is in this kind of repeated grid pattern. It almost presents you a scientific look at something simple like pairs of shoes. But I think her paintings are just so fun. And remember, these are large. These could be 8 or 10 feet in size. So when you're standing right and looking at these, there's a whole wall of shoes. It's not like a little tiny drawing. These are gigantic. So you feel like you're inside a display of shoes when you look at it. And then the last piece that you have is called Fragments, painted in 1989, and I absolutely love this. So these are broken pieces of Greek pottery. So the ancient Greeks were known for creating these elaborate vases and jars that would hold all kinds of liquids. These were huge vases of all different styles, elaborately painted and decorated with these amber colors and this glossy black glaze. So what we have here are broken pieces of those Greek vases. And in museums, sometimes they're recreating these vases by attempting to put them back together. Other times, broken pieces are on display. But here you have this entire canvas covered in these different broken shards of the Greek vase. I think they're beautiful. So it looks like pieces to multiple different vases all together. They don't all go to the same thing. You can see all these different kind of designs on them. This one down here in the center at the bottom is a figure riding a horse. Over to the right of that are 3 warriors in a row. If you go up top to this orangey one, there are dolphins and water and a ship. Here are horses racing. So they're all different. This one I love because it's not arranged in rows or in a grid, but it's all, kind of thrown in there. There's very little negative space left in between the pieces of the vase. But you still get that blank white background that Lisa Milroy is known for. And I just think this is so much fun. What's interesting about this, I think, is that the pieces of the vases get cut off on the edges of her painting. So it alludes to the idea that there is a lot more broken vase that we're not seeing, right? Because these pieces get cut off the edge. So whereas the other paintings of shoes, you could tell that these were the only pairs, right? Because there was all this space around them. Here, though, it looks like she's just zoomed in on one section of this. I think it's really incredible. She also captures that glossy look of the vases by having these beautiful highlights on them. And the limited color scheme using only these amber tones, these oranges and yellows, plus black, makes this really exciting piece to look at. So I'm a big fan of this. I hope you enjoy something like this. I think it's really, really cool. And then I just wanted to show you this one again you don't have. She starts to loosen up her style at the end of the 1990s. So here in 1999, she paints fruit and vegetables. And here you get, again, this arrangement of food. Not painted as tightly, as realistically as some of the other objects. It's a lot looser, but I think that that's really cool. So again, here you have just this entire arrangement of different foods, fruits and vegetables laid out on a blank white surface. But I love just the color. I just think this is fun. Right? I just enjoy looking at it. I think it's really cool. Hopefully you enjoy Lisa Milroy's art and you like looking at her style. She does have other things as well. Here are just two examples of single shoe paintings that are a lot more detailed. These are large in size. And her later work drifts away from the repetition, and she tends to do some different things. But her repetition pieces are my favorites, so that's why I wanted to focus on that for our class. So when my class is finished, you have a journal entry question to answer in your assignment. What role do you think repetition plays in art? And why might artists like Lisa Milroy use repetition? So we looked at a lot of the artworks that she created that repeat elements, whether it's colors repeated, objects repeated. What effect do you think that repetition has, right, on the artwork? So again, my students, when you're done, please take a photograph of your artist gallery page for Lisa Milroy and add it to the assignment online. And then in the text box, answer this journal entry question. What role do you think repetition plays in art? If you enjoyed Lisa Milroy's work, Google her. She has a huge assortment of paintings from all over the world that you can check out. And hopefully there's something that you enjoy.